So here's the question. What have we been learning about effective pedagogy during the period of the COVID-19 lockdown? I'm Bevan. I'm head teacher here at Southend High School for Boys, a school where we have had for a long time a deep interest in the inquiry and research into effective teaching and learning practices. We want to know what works, and we want to know why it works well for different classes, different pupils, different teachers, different subjects. At the time of the COVID-19 lockdown, unexpectedly and surprisingly, we found ourselves making a very rapid transition from provision in school across a fortnight of 2,000 taught lessons to suddenly providing for that same timetable for those same pupils through remote learning activities. All of those activities have been posted online using well-established resources, and some of the activities are online tasks. Some have used online tutorials and videos. Others have been deliberately designed to take students away from screens and into perhaps a more creative space for the development of their ideas. We've learned a lot about the effectiveness of those tools and their reliability, and there's no doubt that along with many other educationalists, we would be continuing to champion the benefits of technology and learning. But we've also found some interesting and perhaps unexpected, at least they were unexpected at the outset, insights into the nature of effective teaching and learning, the nature of effective classroom pedagogy that has been limited or impeded during this transition. I want to talk about three. And as we hear those three being explored, I think probably for most educators it will become apparent that there are barriers to effective learning that arise when it is as remote as it has been during this period. The three barriers. The first is the ability to effectively mediate new content. The second is the capacity of the teacher in a remote environment to be able to engage successfully in good quality diagnostic probing of a pupil's understanding. And the third limitation that we've found is that pupils are very much less able to engage in the constructive re-articulation of their learning. So let's just have a think about each of those three, just thinking about what normally happens in the classroom and what perhaps is limited when we go online. When a teacher is looking to present new material, new ideas, new factual content, new theoretical understanding, it varies very much from subject to subject, but there are some fairly clear principles that we know work in the classroom. You begin to sketch out where you're heading. You use some future basing so that pupils are conscious of what they might be expected to shortly hear. The teacher provides an explanation of what it is that is new, but is acutely conscious of the reactions of each of the pupils in the classroom. You can tell quite instinctively the degree to which a class is either with you or not. And during that process of explanation, the teacher opts to rephrase, to speed up. If everybody understands and it's clear it's going well. The teacher uses analogies. The teacher reaches out for alternative ways to explain, even asking pupils to explain one to another if they can't find within themselves the language of that new explanation. And compare that, however good they are, to asking students to watch a video of someone explaining something, or to read some text about a new idea or set of factual information. It's absolutely clear that the teacher in the classroom has a critical role in effectively mediating the transmission of that new learning. And that isn't something that can just be dismissed by the replacement of that teacher interaction with some form of presentational content. It's an area to explore, to understand more deeply. What are the skilled decisions that are made by those proficient teachers when they give those explanations? So the second thought to explore is about the role of diagnostic questions. And here, this isn't about testing, but it's about that part of lessons, that part of the process of teaching and learning. When the teacher sets aside the transmission of new content and the explanation of new ideas, moves into a process where they're looking to extract from the learners some understanding of what they have grasped of what has been taught. What we say as teachers is not necessarily what our learners learn. So one of the most fundamental principles of the classroom is that the transition from teacher expertise to pupil expertise involves a lot of pitfalls. Pupils misunderstand the things that we say. They sometimes draw wrong conclusions or make incorrect connections. One of the challenges around remote learning, unless it involves a particularly strong interactive component, is that you can't readily assess whether what has been learnt is the same as what you intended to teach. Has a pupil deduced a way forward through a particular topic that is actually based on some false understanding? Unless we have considerably more sophisticated online tools than we now do, it makes it exceptionally difficult to engage in that second process, that process of the effective diagnosis of the level of initial understanding that pupils might have. And third, this also appears to be largely missing, certainly in our experience of remote learning, is that stage in which pupils are asked, possibly in pairs, possibly in group work, and before the end of the topic that's being considered, pupils are asked to engage in activities that force them to articulate their own learning. We know that this is particularly beneficial to those who are doing that articulation, who are being forced to explain what they've learned. But we also know it's beneficial to those who sit alongside them who perhaps haven't understood as well to start with. There's something about the authentication of the voice and register of the co-learner in that situation. If you are learning remotely, then there is the profound risk that you develop what is known as the illusion of fluency. You think you understand because it all sounds reasonable, whatever you've learned. You've even potentially been able to complete some tasks that have been set in that area. But if you're not forced to articulate it, then we know that the chances of it being learnt well in the sense of good comprehensive understanding, but also learnt well in the sense of long-term retention is limited. These aren't issues that would never be solved with remote learning. They aren't issues that remain permanently there. But there is no doubt that as we compare and contrast remote learning experiences with the authentic and rich classroom experiences led by proficient teachers, that these three dimensions haven't been there for our pupils across recent weeks. We have lost the opportunities for teachers to be proficient and expert mediators of new content. We've lost the opportunity for teachers to rigorously examine through diagnostic questioning the understanding that their pupils have at the early stage of learning. And because the pupils themselves are largely isolated from each other, the opportunities for them to exchange and explore together and to talk thoroughly about their learning have also been curtailed. As we look to a new future, whatever it might be, over the coming months, there is no doubt that education will need to sustain those dimensions alongside any other that may arise as benefits of the new technologies. Thank you.